You were a 3-time All-Star. You were MVP. You had the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals, a chance to go to the NBA Finals. You had the devastating injury.
Yes.
You had another knee injury. You've had 4 surgeries in a very short period of time, and you get cut by some teams. You were on the ascension, Derrick, to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, that is not hyperbole.
Yes.
That is, and I'm sure you knew that as well. And all of a sudden, you have these injuries and these heartbreaks and these personal, or I should say professional failures getting cut by these respective teams. Going through all of that, Derrick, what were those moments like for you, and did some of those days become really dark?
Of course. I felt every emotion you could think of, but to talk on the Hall of Fame thing, I am a Hall of Famer, and not in everybody's eyes, but to the people that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I made it, I executed, I got to where I was at. I've been having these same expectations I have now. They were thrown on me in 6th grade. I achieved all that. I got through all that. Imagine like being 12 or 13, and everywhere you go, people are like putting like their burdens on you. Like, man, you're going to be the one to make it. You know what? You have, like, you're going to be the one, Shorty. You the one. You're like, what? Like, when I was younger, I used to always like pray a lot, because when people used to say things like that, I felt like they were jinxing me. And it was just a weird position to be in. And now looking back at it, I was just happy that I had the mentors I had. I was open and vulnerable enough to talk to people when it was uncomfortable, and I got through it.
What did it take you to get to that point, Derrick, that you were comfortable talking about things that previously made you uncomfortable to discuss?
I think my mom, like being around her, we tend to, like, we're very independent.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have tough times or go through tough times, we shut everybody out, and we feel like we could handle everything ourselves. And I think I got that from her, where during that time, I never worried about basketball. My problems were always like off the court, like with like friendships.
Right.
Like, I had one of my friends tell me that he had to step away from me because of because we were in a hot seat at the time. And at the time I couldn't comprehend that, or I couldn't understand it, because it was like, bro, we got this far, like through the bull. No, we got this far. Why you stepping away now? But those were the things I was worried about, not basketball.
Derrick Rose has a new book out called I'll Show You. You can get it on Amazon and other fine book retailers right now. Former MVP with the Bulls and played for several different teams throughout his career, especially as of late. So what makes you still want to keep playing basketball, Derrick, at this point?
I had to change my perception. Like, of course, I love the game. When you're in the game and you learn the business, for someone like the way that I grew up, you learn the business side, and it like draws you back a little bit, because you start to see that you just see the business side of it. And my perspective had to change, because I had to change it had to go from me actually like purely just loving the game to understand the game to I'm solely only doing this for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, during the time that I was thinking about retiring, I thought about my son, and I thought about how he wouldn't be able to like come to the games before, like to shoot around with me, to work out with me before the games. Like, I was taking that away from him, and I was being selfish, and I had to grow up basically and just stick it through.
What was rock bottom for you?
Rock bottom.
Yeah.
I would have to say, like I said, I never worried about basketball. It was always just friendships and going through turmoil with just being in Chicago, going places, people talking there. It was just a lot to go through in your hometown.
I'm going to ask you a little perspective and advice for someone else. Dwight Howard just rejoined the Lakers for a second time, and he recently said that he hit rock bottom, and that changed his perspective on things. And when you say that term, it can mean so many different things for different people, whether it's career-wise, personal-wise, what have you. For Derrick for Derrick Rose hitting rock bottom and continuing on in a pursuit of still playing basketball or being the support for his family, what advice would you give Dwight Howard, who's now in a somewhat similar position, trying to do the same thing basketball-wise there in Los Angeles?
I will have to say be patient.
How hard is that to do, though, Derrick? How hard is it to be patient considering who you were, or who you are, pardon me?
I'm saying everybody's different, though, to each his own. But I'm saying for me, my advice to someone else, or I didn't know at the time that I was going through everything that my biggest blessing was my calmness. I always wonder, man, I'm in this profession. I have to be an extrovert. I have to be social. I have to do all this stuff because this is required. I'm thinking this is what's required from me.
Right.
But little did I know is that no, be who you are. You're quiet. I didn't know what an introvert was until I was in my 20s. Mm-hmm. This whole time I didn't know I had to go back to my room and recharge. I'm thinking everybody had to do this or everybody's fatigued this way. It's little things that you know. So that's why I say maturing. I didn't know nothing about that introvert, extrovert stuff. Little things like that helped me a long way to understand who I was as a person, as a man, and as a black man.
What did this book do for you in terms of writing it and be able to express yourself and get certain things out? What did this moment do for you?
It was solely for my fans. I have a huge fan base.
Yeah, you do.
Everywhere I go, I have people that relate to me or just get a feeling or a vibe from me from some way, somehow. And I never opened up to anyone like the way that I did or like I'm doing right now. And this is just a little insight on who I am as a person. I feel like I'm a very complex person. You could put everything in a book by wanting to give you a visual. That's why I put out the documentary. I'm giving you a book so you'll be able to read it, and you never know what the future may hold.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.